These pictures are from the IG report. It states roughly 8,000 immigrants held in Border Patrol detention facilities in South Texas were subjected to, quote, serious overcrowding and prolonged detention. Democratic Senator Jeff Merkley was on Meet the Press this morning.
Clean up the facilities, they decrease the number of people there. So that is why it's valuable to have an inspector general who can drop in at a moment's notice and who works for the administration to give a report.
The acting DHS secretary says there needs to be a more balanced enforcement process to handle the influx of migrants illegally crossing our borders.
That's why I've been going down to Central America to work on the origins of this crisis and address those human smugglers that are incentivizing and inviting people into this dangerous cycle in the first place. That's why we're enhancing our border security. That's why I've asked for Congress to change the laws, but it's also why we need to do interior enforcement.
Speaking of interior enforcement, President Trump says those delayed ICE raids are still on and set to begin sometime after this holiday weekend.
This is just what ICE is supposed to do. The fact that we've fallen to the point where we're talking about it like it's news tells you how far that we have fallen in the enforcement side. I mean, it is the most violated federal court order in America.
And Trump said those ICE raids are set to target about 2,000 families in 10 different U.S. cities, including right here in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and New York. Leland?
All right, we'll keep tabs on that. Christina, thanks so much. Molly's got more.
And joining us now to give us his take on what's happening in South Texas, we bring in El Paso, Texas Mayor Dee Margo. Mr. Mayor, thanks for joining us on this Sunday. We really appreciate it. I think it's important to get sort of a frontline look at how things are going. How are things going in El Paso? Have things improved at all?
Well, Molly, in El Paso, which is far west Texas, the IG report was for South Texas, but we still have an immigration crisis, and it's been occurring since October of last year when CBP alerted us in the city of El Paso that they were going to have to start releasing migrants on the street on their own recognizance because their facilities could not hold them. And this is so, you know, Congress, both sides of the aisle, both houses have known about this since October, and actually this is a problem that goes back for over 30 years and the lack of immigration reform because no one's apparently had the intestinal fortitude to deal with it.
Yeah, you mentioned the IG report.
People need
that details some of these challenges that they're facing down in various migrant centers and really some of the overcrowding and the things that have come out of that. A group of Democrats went to some of these facilities. Rashida Tlaib, Democrat of Michigan, says that she actually spoke with some agents, and here's what she says they told her.
3 agents took me aside away from my colleagues and said, more money is not going to fix this, that they were not trained to separate children, that they don't want to separate 2-year-olds away from their mothers. That's not what they were trained for. That's not what they signed up for in their service to our country. They signed up to protect the border, not to separate children, not to put people in cages. They all said this is a broken system.
Now, she brings up money there. Important to note that she's among the progressive Democrats who did just vote against that $4.5 billion border funding bill. What do you make of her comments and also about, you know, some of these Democrats voting against the funding?
Well, they do need the funding. They need more judges. They need more funding. Remember, these areas that we're holding, and I've seen them, that CBP is these detention centers are not designed to be detention centers. They're processing centers. And the problem is that they don't have any place to release them, and then court orders are limiting what they can and can't do. But what I've seen from CBP